The AU election was done this weekend, and first of all, I'll just like to congratulate Raila, because despite all the losses this man has faced in life, he has been able to continue rising up. And I think the biggest lesson someone can pick from the old man is resilience, where you just have to go for what you want, never give up, never quit, just give it all your best. There are rumors that Raila's father had placed a curse on him. I don't know how true that is, but they are just rumors. So all in all, it was a good attempt from Raila. He has said people should not blame President Ruto, but rather it was upon him, and President Ruto just decided to support his bid, of which, if it was that way, it's a really good move for Raila, because him, despite failing to become the Kenya's president and deciding to become the chairman of AU, was a really good move for him. But now, why did Raila lose this election? Because his loss is not just because, let's say, what people say or the rumors that spread around that Raila was cursed. Neither is it because that Raila was of old age. No, there are things that contributed to the loss of Raila. You see, as Kenya, the AU politics is more of diplomacy matter rather than the politics of a local or the local politics that we see here in Kenya. I think that we as Kenya viewed this election in the prism of local politics, which we shouldn't, because this is continental politics where diplomacy is of higher value in comparison to local way of how we do politics. Now, for instance, we had over 30 members of parliaments going for this thing. A number of governors, akina Gladys Wanga were there, akina Abdul Swamad were there, akina Nyang' Nyong'o were there. We had ODM members like akina Kasmuel Makaure. As a matter of fact, what was he doing there? You see, if you compare the delegation that accompanied Raila to Ethiopia and the delegation that accompanied Mahmoud to Ethiopia, it tells you who is more diplomatic than the other. Why am I saying this? You see, for Raila to go to Ethiopia, he would have just carried Raila Odinga, maybe his daughter, Musalia Mudavadi, who is the Prime Cabinet Secretary, one member of ODM, probably Gladys Wanga, and lastly we'll have the president. Hawa watu wengine wote wangengojea Raila atoke Ethiopia akuje. I was told the fare to Ethiopia is 250,000. I've not done any research on that. I was just told. And I'm wondering, where did Akina Kasmuel get that money to pay if that is not taxpayers' money? So, for Mahmoud, he only had his wife and I think 3 ministers from Djibouti. I think even the president of Djibouti maybe alijipeleka baadaye mwenyewe. But people who accompanied Mahmoud as his backup force were only 3 people or 4. Yet Kenya went with nearly an entire flight of people to Ethiopia. Now, Raila's lost, and some of his allies are trying to call for the withdrawal of Kenya from African Union. Okay, I saw Trump withdrew from WHO, so Raila trying to make the country withdraw from AU. As much as I have not seen the impact of AU in a lot of things in Africa, inclusive of the war going in Congo, I don't think if it's the right move. And for others are expecting Raila to destabilize the political environment of Kenya, either by demanding more from the government, either to go for the Nusumkate form of government, whereby everything in Kenya Kwanza government is shared equally with ODM, so that ODM can guarantee Ruto support in 2027, or by forming a coalition with the UDA rebels, that is Rigathi Gachagua and akina Kalonzo Musyoka, who are also in Azimio, to face William Ruto. Or others are saying that in order for him to form a coalition in 2027 with UDA, they must meet all his demands. A number of ambassadors, a number of cabinet secretaries, either the speaker, and even probably UDA agreeing that Azimio is the majority coalition in the National Assembly. You see, there's a bit of an element in this that is in line with how we handled Amina Mohamed's candidature a few years ago. Remember, Amina Mohamed lost. She was the foreign affairs minister of this country. And when we look at this issue on the prism of geopolitics, for instance, the interests and the fears of the nations that will be voting were not well catered for by our government. You see, for the Anglophone speaking countries or the English speaking countries of Africa, this election was very important because out of the 4 past chairs of AUC, 3 were from Francophone countries. Those are countries speaking French, and that is why the Anglophone countries rallied behind Raila Odinga. But if you check very well, the Francophone countries voted as a bloc and they voted to Mahmoud. I'll tell you why these people voted to Mahmoud later. Now, if I'm to give you maybe the past 4 AU chairman, number 1, we had the former Prime Minister of Gabon, that is John Ping. Then he was followed by Lamini Zuma, the former Foreign Affairs Minister of South Africa. And then we had Mohamed Ali Yusuf, the current AU chair. Now, for me, personally, I think, considering a number of facts, we would have fielded another candidate other than Raila Odinga for the AU chairmanship. I'm not saying Raila is not fit for the seat, but I feel that if we could have fielded another candidate, we would have stood a better chance of challenging Mahmoud. Either we could have fielded the former president, that is Uhuru Kenyatta, because Uhuru had a very good relationship with most of the African countries compared to our current president, who seems to be having a lot of struggles with a number of countries in Africa. Or even rather, we could have fielded the former candidate we had given, that is Amina Mohamed, because her CV meets the qualifications of vying for the AU chairmanship. But now, let's talk about the mistakes we made that costed Raila the seat. Number 1, the delegation to the election was too expensive, and this brings in the issue of massive expenditure. Remember, going into that office, you're going to be spending money of the continent. So the people will ask themselves, huyu amekuja na watu wote, will he be favoring his country or will he be favoring the entire continent? That's the question you cannot avoid, because people judge you with how you act. So the attempt of this government to carry an entire plane of people to Ethiopia, people who don't even vote there, people who won't even help Raila, was the first mistake these people made. The second mistake was the bribery attempt by President William Ruto on Mahmoud before the election. You see, integrity in this point of diplomacy is really key, and trying to taint your image by trying to bribe a former candidate, hiyo ni mchezo tunafanyanga Kenya. Wacheni dirty linen yetu tubakishe kwa inchi. We should stop airing dirty linen in public. And the fact that Mahmoud put it point blank that Kenya attempted to bribe him, that is why even Egypt withdrew its support for Raila. And also that is the reason why Francophone countries might have withdrawn. A number of them might have drawn their support for Raila, despite assuring to support him in the first place. The third thing is, Kenya's political instability and Raila's cards in it played another role in Raila losing that election. You see, in this country, kumekuwa na maandamano. Then, Raila went to form the broad-based government. And people cried online on social media that Raila has ridden on the blood of young people. So to some leaders in Africa, that does not sit well. So they cannot vote for you, because if your country is not stable, will you focus on stabilizing your country, or you'll come now to work for the continent, yet you are a key player in whatever is happening in your country politically? So that could have been another reason as to why most of the countries never voted for Raila. The other thing is experience on foreign affairs matters. Yes, Raila has served as the lead of infrastructure for AU, but that does not guarantee Raila as suitable for that seat. I'll tell you why Francophone countries didn't vote for Raila. Number 1, Francophone countries speak French. Raila, I think, does not speak French. So these countries needed someone who can present their needs in the language they'll understand. And if you check, Francophone countries are so many in Africa. if you are to win an AU chairmanship, make sure you convince francophone countries very well, according to me. So if you checked, francophone countries voted in huge numbers and they voted for Mahmoud. So that is why Raila lost. Lastly, Kenya's involvement in the DRC war, Kenya's involvement in the Israel-Gaza war, Kenya's involvement in Haiti. You see, when there is problem in your neighbor, you should not be too quick to judge. And if you check, here is where Ruto blundered this guy, because Ruto was so quick into running into these wars, giving advice, ako willing kupeana wanajeshi wake waende wapigane huko. And you see all these things, watu tu wanakuangalia wanasema sasa huyu ndio mnataka tupigie mtu wa nchi yake akuja hapa. Si vita ikianza watatuma majeshi huko imalize watu. So there are ways in which I think President Ruto will have approached these issues of wars that will not have hindered Raila's bid of becoming the AU chairperson. Anyway, those are just my personal views on why I feel and I think that Raila lost the AU chairmanship. You do leave me your own comments in the comment section. Why do you think Raila lost the AU election to Mahmoud of Djibouti? And lastly, congratulations Mahmoud for your victory as the AU chairperson for the next 4 years. Kindly, we hope that you will take this continent to the next level, bridge the peace of build the bridge of unity, ensure there is a lot of unity in our continent, and also development. Have yourselves a lovely week, guys.